John, now it's too late because they've gone into executive, so I just told them they would have to see me afterwards.
We'll get that.
So we'll have to get it when they're done with the meeting.
We'll get it. So I sold that. Can you get rid of it? Yeah, that's what I did. One of the budget list items I have to do is to learn how to work that.
The sides are few. Not cheap, because obviously we've done that. It just seems like they're so
The problem is,
girthy around the side. Do like trying to roll on. See how that.
it's this one right here. This is their, this, it has, it's brand new. But it's really classic. So, let me show you this. So what they did, we're live. That's all. Now this one. So this one is, so. See how this is branded? Yeah, she says that she does. That's fine. So. The challenge is I want to buy
Not turn these things off. Yes. really what we're doing is fat tire bikes.
Yeah, I love that tire, but it's I need one, I can't do both. I need one.
Just do the fat tire.
I know.
If you think you're gonna be ready, you're not gonna spot. If you think it's always gonna be a trail, riding through minor streams, riding on the snow, really consider it. Jameson, or Rocky, Rowley. That's where and they found on KSL. It was quite for us.
It, but then it doesn't connect. Last supper.
Last Supper, that's actually what we call it. Well, maybe Last Supper.
What's that?
Well, maybe Last Supper.
It did.
That's the problem. When you get to my age and they're all gone.
Yeah, he does talk back occasionally.
75-year-old father-in-law have snow pile right at the driveway of my house.
Oh, good.
And so Seth's standing on the ground. And then up where my wife's standing, nearest I can tell it's about 15 feet. That's fantastic.
It's like an avalanche test.
Oh, okay. I'm like, Seth, what'd you dig that out?
I just want to get to.
He dug one a couple years ago, and so he wanted to compare.
We're gonna have some drifts. I see those snow walkers along the interstate. And there's gonna be some, going to Casper, there's gonna be some drifts there too. Next year, if they won't melt, so not all the way. That's really incredible. It's really fun to see.
I don't see any light, so it's almost like this thing doesn't, it's lost all charge. But it will recognize it for a second, so it's got
Right.
enough charge to recognize it.
Should I just charge it overnight or something and see if
Yeah.
I don't know how long they need to charge. I mean, I haven't.
They usually say,
Yeah.
there's not even an indicator.
Right, that's what I was looking for. Just looking at it's on the clock. Was to see if there was any way on there, because usually when it's on, we can see how much battery life.
But that's what's interesting, again, you're not, let's try charging it overnight. Everything I was reading, it says to turn the Bluetooth off, turn this off, turn the Bluetooth on, turn this back on.
Right. And what's crazy is, when that happens with this, at least you can move around. When it happens on my desktop, I don't like get that thing to hook on.
Back to the days of no mouse, your
Well, yeah, it's like
keyboard. What are the shortcuts?
the DOS, man.
Do we only have, we have one that needs sharing between the two, don't we?
This? No, I have two. I have one that I use with this, and I have one
That's for that.
for that. Yeah.
That's why it's in two places. Yeah, let's try plugging it in overnight.
Yeah, maybe I'll turn it
I mean,
on.
usually I should be able to see, like when you turn it on, the red, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You're not, I'm not seeing it. There's my little green lights or something that shows fully charged. Come on.
Something.
Come on,
Yeah.
Apple.
Or, you know, I have a backup. You can put some batteries in it, double the batteries.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think you can't do that in these things.
Take it up there and charge it. All right. Now, does it charge, if your computer turned off, it doesn't charge, right? If the charger's.
Good, you, Mrs. Dunford?
Back in the computer.
How are you doing? That's good.
So, do you have a USB right there?
That's what I know. She would help
Yeah, that would be awesome thing, wasn't
Well, I did.
I have two email answers.
Remove them.
I texted him communications because he said
Okay, I'm gonna take mine and I'll make a copy. Somebody took my whole stack.
it's just weird that we're at this point now. It's gotta be
Somebody must have set stuff on top of it and picked it up accidentally. You guys on the agenda? Travis, you good or do you need one? You guys good?
Right, sure. Our board meeting starting August of next year, going back to the second Tuesday, right? How's it going?
Good, you?
Good.
Somewhere time for spring break?
We're not sure yet. We might. My dad works up in Cody, so we might go just stop by a little bit because that's what we did before school started. But we're not sure yet. He might come down here and take us somewhere. So we're not sure. Hopefully.
I'm going to Texas.
Texas? Wow. Get away from all the snow.
I have
Yeah.
family that lives down there, so we rented a house down on the coast.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, I'm sick of this weather already. So hopefully we doesn't rain.
It'll be nice. So you guys, good.
Hey,
Hey, Steve. Yes. You guys want the agenda?
I found you this.
Steve, do you need the agenda? Do you want an agenda?
So I've got.
That's in the half hour ago.
I didn't say we should go back. No, we're good. Yeah, I would sure you need more room. That's great.
Be a way of
You're comfortable. It was something like.
super busy today.
Okay, here's, we thought that he had passed yesterday. Yeah, well, I can't see it. Oh, well, he came for last fall.
So like you have your flyer and you take the form and you know what you want to get paid. And you just take that form and show it to the school. And you just sell the flyer and
Yeah, but, so yeah, so we get this fixed. A few weeks ago, I have just a screenshot of this. Nothing, well, it's like, hey, is it cool and come stay for 2 full weeks or? Like, Jeremy, what is this?
I kind of respect it though. but
No.
I care that little.
Right, right? And that is exactly right, like the world, this is the world and this is me, and it just revolves around me. Hey.
I'm so mad. Can I tell you what?
What?
I just assumed, just always stupid. But I had my teacher and I had experience in the army. So I thought she would be
Because they've never talked.
Yeah. So here to here. But there's a year one and here. There's a start.
Oh.
All on the team's left. So now I have to go back and do the government stuff.
Oh, that's.
So that's my negative.
Is redoing those, oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they're going to evaluate almost every single one in this room. It's like, oh.
So Brad, you don't even say a word.
Oh, word.
Okay.
All right, Rick.
You.
Thanks for pointing that out.
you check those batteries and make sure they're good before they come in? They're good? Is it dead? It was on 2 earlier. So I thought, well, maybe we better check it quick. What's that one?
Okay, that one might be okay. And we could switch and pick a main one.
All right, Mr. Thomas. All right.
Okay, oh, there we go.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Dave? I think he's still out there. That's it, right? Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Looking around, kissing babies, shaking hands. Shaking hands, kissing babies. Well,
Back in the day.
no, I know. Hey, my wife and Claire, so. Yeah, that's right. So, you know. All righty. Welcome, everybody. Sorry we're a little bit late, went a little over on the executive session, so it is now 6:11, and I'd like to call to order the Evanston, Union County School Board meeting. I need a motion to go into the board meeting.
So moved.
Second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. You can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, next, we need to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion, I got a second. Do I have any modifications that need to be made to the agenda? Board members? Anybody out there? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the consent agendas. Items A, B, C, and D as noted. The minutes from 2/7/2023, the payment of bills, the second reading of the JECBA admission of exchange student, and approve administrator contracts.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second that motion.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. All right. Next on the agenda, Mr. Thomas.
Oh, is that me?
That would be you.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, again, as part of our budgeting process, we have all the department director heads come and
Nope,
present.
we're on 5. We got to do Mrs. Blackwell.
She's not here?
Oh, well, we need to at least mention her, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Recognition.
Recognition,
Sorry.
thank you.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, we're very fortunate Heather Blackwell was recognized as Music Teacher of the Year. Very proud of her and the work she does. Probably right in the middle of their Frozen play, which is, again, we're one of only 4 or 5 in the nation that gets to put that play on. Pretty impressive. She does great work. I can tell you, if you ever are melancholy or down, go sit in her class for a few minutes and just listen to those kids perform. Very impressive. So, well done, Mrs. Blackwell. Our hats off to her. We'll probably recognize her again at the beginning of the next school year, so everyone knows. She
Okay.
will be in the paper, I believe, so
Perfect.
that's good.
Yep.
That's it.
No, we're not
Next
to
one.
item 6.
Okay.
That's the next step.
As part of our budget process, we have the directors present, and this month it is our special education director and our activities director. And I'm not sure which one's going first. Looks like Mr. O'Neill is to his feet. Come on down. I understand this is going to be interactive.
Well, I was going to, but I was given some advice by our administration about not doing that. Because I'm usually long in my presentation, mostly because you guys ask a lot of questions. I'm blaming it all on you guys.
So we get one question each?
Well, I'm good with that. I just, everybody else will struggle with that.
I'm not being mean. Just need to point it out to him.
What's that? It's not going to work.
Oh, okay.
You know, you guys got a chance to look at what I wrote down as a PowerPoint presentation. I was told long ago, PowerPoint presentations are really boring. If you want to lose a crowd, go ahead and do that. So I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint presentation piece by piece. I will say, in summary, thank you guys a bunch for everything you've done. Our kids have benefited a great deal from you guys' foresight and your gratitude. You look at the stadium that we have and the opportunities that our track and soccer teams will have eventually. It's phenomenal. As you talk about the blow-ups, the bubbles, those are going to benefit our kids for a long, long time. And so I just want to say thank you. And for me to come before you and say, hey, I need more money, I don't want you mad at me. So you've been giving plenty. You know, obviously there are some things that are changing. Inflation's changed a lot of what we do within our department, but we are able to continue doing what we do, and that is with the help of our coaches, the benefit of them understanding how we work together as a team, and we'll make this stuff work. I did put in there some stuff on swimming, diving boards, lane lines, things that we need. I just wanted you to see the cost, and those are on the minimal side, the low side. Anytime we make purchases for our programs, and those are big ticket purchases, they are very, very expensive. But we continue to find ways to do that with your generous help, with Mr. Thomas's help, and with our coaches' help in sacrificing in a lot of different ways. So we sacrifice, but don't interfere with the opportunities of our kids. We want to make sure of that. We have technical difficulties.
I see that.
But I'll just go real quick. I'm going to do a self-evaluation. That's what I wanted to do today when I came in, because here's the deal. If you want to be better, you have to look within. I can talk about other people. Usually don't do that very well, but I can talk about myself and my shortcomings. And some of our school board members know that I've been working on culture for a long time. It's something that I really wanted to get better in the activities department. It's been a very difficult process, but part of that process is me learning. I've learned a great deal about culture and ways to start developing that culture. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. Obviously, the other thing that I struggle with is identifying how someone else can do better. It's easy for me to recognize what I can do to be better. It's very difficult for me to help someone else, because that really is, for me, I believe it's inside us. Mr. Bennett was my principal when I was coaching in high school. Dave's known me most of my life. Many of you have had kids in our program, and obviously Mr. Gill played for me at one time. I am self-driven. I've always been self-driven, maybe too much at times, but it's easy for me, but it's hard for me to recognize what other people need to do. So that's my goal. My goal this year is to find a way to drive a more positive culture, and we're going to do that, maybe. Oh, thank you. Okay. Well,
Just have to scroll down.
oh, I'm missing my pieces here. That's okay. It wasn't on theirs, it's just on mine. So that's my goal. My goal is to help drive a better culture in our activities programs. And how do you do that? Well, through a lot of research, I have some ideas, and you guys were going to participate in some of that today, and as we get there, you will. We'll just go down here while he's working on that. I put in here the Red Devil Code, and you won't really understand what that means before we get through this first little video clip. But I put 3 words up there that mean a lot to me in success of programs: grit, trust, and pride. And then there's the academic piece there, there's the citizenship piece there. In the middle is the actual sport itself, and I put all sports and activities up there. And I wrote down what I thought was grit. You know, as you go through that, do whatever it takes. We are mentally tough. Effort and toughness first. We rise to the line. There are some things that I would have to define there. What is the line? Some people talk about the bar. You raise the bar to the highest level. I've been watching the great coaches lately, and they talk about the bar. And one of them is Gino Ariama. He's probably one of the greatest women's coaches of all times. And he talks about the recruits he brings in. He says, I have these goals for my kids. I put them up there, and they're just impossible goals. But sometimes you get a group of kids that can reach those goals. And he says, I never let them reach them. I always want them challenged. So he raises the line. And so when we talk about the line, we have to decide what that is. What is it that we expect from our kids. Sometimes I don't know what our board wants from me. I don't know what it is that is most important that we get out of our kids. So the one there that I wanted you guys to work on was citizenship. In citizenship, and that's when they represent us, when they're in our schools, when they're on the road, when they're just in the community, and they're ours. They're wearing our brand. What is it that we want from them? What does grit mean in that situation?
Doing what is right.
Doing what is right all the time. So a question by one of our administrators, well, a statement by one of our administrators was, grit is grit academically, in a sport or in citizenship. Grit's grit, except for one thing. How many people really know what grit is? Could a sophomore in high school define for you what grit is? We have to define that for them. What is it? And you said?
Doing the right thing all the time.
Doing the right thing all the time. How hard is it to do anything all the time?
That comes from Lou Holtz.
It's hard. So, anybody else? Would you have one to add there to grit on citizenship?
Determination.
What's that?
Determination.
Determination. Anything else? Grit in terms of citizenship. What do we see in citizenship that's difficult? One that's really hard is defying peer pressure. That takes a great deal of grit because our peers drive us, positively or negatively. David and I, Mr. Peterson, excuse me, we are friends. Mr. Peterson and I talk about this all the time. I'm extremely fortunate that I had great friends. They drove me. I could have gone a lot of different directions. And yet, 40 years after high school, I sit before you. Not been perfect, not even been good at times. But I always had these little voices inside my head, my friends saying, you have to do the right thing. You'd be crazy to do something like that. And I always wanted to honor them by doing as right as I could possibly do. So peer pressure is another one. It's very difficult to handle that. So let's go to trust in citizenship. What would that mean? If you go across there, trust in citizenship. And you see the examples, shared ownership, shared responsibility, shared suffering, and so on and so forth. I've got to trust the person next to me in a sport or in an activity. I've got to trust my coaches. We're all in it together. So in citizenship, how do we define that? Trust. And when you're talking culture.
Dependability.
Dependability.
You know, you could depend on that classmate or that teammate to perform to the best of his ability.
Absolutely. As a school board, we send kids all over this state. We put them in hotel rooms. 4 of them together, we close the door, and they have approximately 8-9 hours together. Do we have to trust them? You better believe it. You better believe it. And so, trust and citizenship in school, we can easily define those as well. And the last one is pride. And the one that's probably the easiest for me to answer, ride for the brand. I definitely ride for the brand. This is who I am. I graduated from this high school. I love Evanston. I taught and coached here for a long time and now been a long time AD. I truly ride for the brand. I think the other thing on there I wanted to explain, I explained it to Ms. Dunford before we came here. Play for the name on the front of the jersey and honor the name on the back. We often hear, play for the name on the front of the jersey, not for the name on the back. No way. That name on the back means something. I'm playing for this brand all the time. But Mr. Guild's playing for Guild. For grandpa, for grandma, for mom and dad, for brothers and sisters. That's important. I take pride in both of those. I want to honor both of those. I want to honor my name. I've been given it. And I want to make sure that everybody knows who I am and what I am. I'm going to do the right thing for them. Strong body language, embrace your role and act like champions. So let's go down to citizenship and pride. Where does that fit for you guys? I bet the transportation director back here could talk about that a little bit. When a bus gets home and it's in not very good shape, we didn't take very good pride, did we? That name on the side of the bus is Evanston Red Devils. Why would we trash it? We go into our locker rooms, we go into our classrooms. All of those things we have to take pride in. And so when you talk about culture, this is one that I developed, and you guys go through this with me a little bit here. This is one way to develop culture in your schools, and this is one thing that I'm going to work on. Can you play that for me? How long have we been going?
It ran out the time.
So
You're fine.
let's go to the last one. I was gonna work on the first one. Is that the first one or the second?
This is the first one.
The second one? Yeah, if we could get to the second one.
Sure.
So you want me to do it? I can do it.
I bet you can.
Are we waiting for,
Yes.
I'll make a comment.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill showed me where to go to look at these different coaches. And I found it extremely interesting. And Mike Krzyzewski, the ex-coach at Duke, talked about when his mother, he was from Chicago, so big city. So talked about when his mother said, Michael, you need to get on the right bus. And he said, well, I travel the city all the time. She says, no, you need to get on the right bus of life.
That's okay.
And make sure that your friends, your contacts are all getting on the right bus with you. And I thought that was extremely, it was extremely good.
I think that's where that peer pressure piece comes in.
Yep,
too.
it does.
It really does.
And I'm sorry, I had a big, long presentation, but I do have some things on here. Talks about culture drives behavior, drives results. Culture drives behavior, drives results. We often don't put culture in with results. And the results that we want, and I talked a little bit about this before we came in here, in the community we definitely want citizenship, and we want great academic behavior. We want the best kids academically. We want the best kids. Oh, there it is right there. But you can't get it right.
For you and me, as it is for them.
Okay.
And oftentimes we can get guilty of pushing a standard for them that we're not what? Living here. And that wouldn't be the first time that we do this. This is one of the hard parts about leading. It puts us out on a pedestal and all that. It's very difficult. But I want to appreciate this. What is there that dictates that the larger group has to win? Who said that has to be true? What important cultural transformation? What important transformation? What important movement ever started in the history of the world with the majority? None. Everything we've ever done as human beings that progress something, improve something, enhance something, or change something from a lower standard to a higher standard, 100% of the time it started with the minority, and it was what? A minority that was, and sometimes it was just one person, and then it what? It slowly went from 1 to 2. They didn't try to go from 1 to 400, they went from 1 to 2, and then...
I won't make you go through the rest there. It really talks about our culture drives our behavior, drives our results. So a leader has to define the culture, and it's not me. I'm not the leader. I'm not going to go into a room of basketball players and say, I'm the one that's going to drive our culture. Not going to do that. We all drive our culture, positively or negatively. We all drive that culture. It's what we want. Collectively, what is it that we want? The bad part is one person can sink the ship pretty quickly if they have a bad attitude. And what we want to help our kids understand is we're in it together. Whatever that is, we're in it together. We may not always get what we want. We might not always get to be the star. We may not always get to be the hero in the end, but we all have a role. The one thing I'm most proud of as a coach was every kid understood that role. every kid understood that they had a very important, vital role. Was it practice, or it was game situations? It might have been a special situation they had a place. When we set our culture down, we set it out, everyone has to be a part of that positively, or we're not going to get anywhere. And so my goal in the next year is to work on grit, trust, pride in my area, but I want our kids and I want our coaches to come up with what they think the code is. I want them to figure out what their line is. I want our coaches and our sponsors to set that bar high, because this is one thing. I wrote a very bad letter this last week. Mr. Peterson got a chance to read it. And I truly believe this. I believe that Evanston kids can do anything they set their minds to. Their only limits are us. When someone says our kids can't do something, that bothers me more than you can ever imagine. We make a lot of excuses for them instead of creating challenges. And I want to make sure that our kids know that and they're okay with that. I want our parents to know that and they're okay with that. I want our coaches to know that and they're okay with that. And I want you to know that. They have to be pushed to their limits. They should be pushed to their limits. That's the only way that our kids ever reach their goals. And so that's it. I'm not going to talk anymore about the.
Coach,
yes.
As part of that, tell me the part that winning is of that. Because I remember your days, okay? And when you were the coach, you demanded excellence. And you, because of your internal energy, it was infectious. And those kids were on board. We had some of the best damn basketball games. Never forget them. And you know, we went to state. So I guess what I'm trying to ask the question is, and I know it's a different generation, a different world, but to me, if we don't win, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm old school, how much fun is it being out there for those kids? And then that's, again, you're talking about a culture. You look at those programs that are successful in this state, in its culture.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think success is something we should strive for. Winning is something we should strive for. What that is difficult, because I got in a lot of trouble back in those days, Mr. Bennett, because I did push.
But you know what? You did, but how much trouble was it really when the end game? You look at those kids on that last winning basketball team. I still got a picture of those kids. And they would have died for you because they loved that game and you made that infectious to them. And they're all successfully doing something.
Well, I want to clarify that just a little bit. You said die for Bubba. It isn't dying for Bubba. It was dying for each other.
Well, yeah.
Those kids would do anything and everything for each other. You just need to have the person in place to make sure that they understand that.
Well, we have coaches in place that can do that, and they do. The thing that we get confused with sometimes is we didn't win a state championship every year.
No.
We competed every year. Our kids did compete. We didn't win a state championship every year. There were years that consolation was just like winning a championship. We have to define what success is, because I was watching one on the soccer coach from North Carolina. He's won 25 national championships. He's never had a group go 4 years and not win one during their 4 years. And he said the most disheartening thing in the world was when they were done, the reporters wanted to bash on them because they didn't win a national championship. Those kids, when he recruited them, he knew they weren't going to win a national championship. Matter of fact, he knew that it was going to be a struggle for them. They wound up playing in the semifinals of the national championship, and he says they achieved far greater than we ever imagined. Now, I say the other side too. We have groups that achieve far less than they should. It's our job, it's really my job and our coach's job to push those kids. I will say this, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I've had these conversations. Coaches don't want to say things to kids anymore. They don't want to push them. I get this a lot from our coaches. I'm not you, Bubba.
Right.
I don't have the thick skin. I can't take the negative. I can't take that anymore. And it's probably getting worse. I don't know that it's worse. I think it's magnified because we have social media that magnifies all of those things. I do believe we have coaches that achieve. I think we have coaches that achieve as high as they can possibly achieve with the group that they have. I think our job is to push our kids as far as they can be pushed. And it's a group effort. Dave said this best. Mr. Peterson said this best. It is shared. Everything is shared. If it's not shared, you're never going to reach your goals. One thing that we have today, I believe, is my individual worth is more valuable than the team goals. And say worth, what I'm saying is I have in my mind, I have to be this. I have to be the leading scorer. I'm letting somebody down. I have to be the show, or, I get this. Well, we don't have we're not going to announce our kids tonight. We don't have an announcer. Oh my gosh, that's the end of the world. No, the ultimate is getting out there and competing and doing whatever you can in that situation. Forget about all of the other stuff. Just compete, and we've got to get back to that. I think there are groups that do that. Mr. Bennett, to answer your question, I believe that we should win when we have groups that can win. I also believe this, it's our job not to use kids, it's to develop kids. Quit waiting for the great group to come. Let's make every group a great group, or as good a group as we can possibly make them. That's what I'm tasked with. When we develop a culture that's the case, where our coaches feel comfortable at pushing kids, where our parents feel comfortable with whatever role their kid has, we're going to achieve a lot. We can get back to that point. There's a thing on here that you guys can't see, and it's not even part of the video, but I recognized it right away. Nobody cares how much you know until you show them how much you care. When you know, one thing that I believe, I may not have understood basketball or football, I may not understand sports, and I may have made a lot of people mad, but I think the one thing that our kids knew is I would do anything for them. And I was going to say kill for them, but that's a bad word here. I would do anything for them to this day, and I think they knew that, and here's the great part, they would do anything for me. They trusted me. That trust thing is not put up there lightly. Trust means a lot. So, any other questions so I can get out of you guys' way?
Good job. Good job.
Sorry it didn't work out, but
You need to take that word out, sorry.
well, yeah, I am.
Good job.
All of these grand designs, they seem to never work.
When it comes to technology, Mr. Bennett's on board with it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bubba.
Thank you, Coach.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, this is Matt Williams, our special ed director.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. That's awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've, appreciated Bubba's comments, and it really started me thinking about some things. So I am going to stay somewhat to my presentation, but I'm going to focus greatly on these first couple slides. Here you'll see who our staff are. Now, not who they are, but what we've got going on, right? Some numbers. Certified will kind of fluctuate throughout the course of the year depending on needs of students and needs of buildings and whatnot. So as you can see, we have a wide array of professionals. We also contract with a great deal of individuals as well to take care of and to address the needs of our students and support our staff as they support students as well. And this is where I want to go off script a little bit. So several weeks ago, a few months ago, I was in a training with the Wyoming Department of Education, and I wish that I would have put this slide in, but again, as I was thinking about things as Mr. O'Neill was talking, some things came to my mind that I want to focus on a little bit more in depth. Part of the presentation at this literacy conference that I went to was the following. So there was a statement, collective efficacy. So basically the ability to produce a desired result. That's what, when we're talking about efficacy, is the belief that we can make a difference that is built on the evidence of impact, right? So what are we doing? Is it working? And how do we can perpetuate that? And how do we apply that to all students? And so the formula was given to us, that collective belief that you can make a difference. Okay, so if you have a collective belief that you can make a difference, and you multiply that by the evidence that you are making a difference, right? So you need data to back up what you're doing, equals an effect size. And in the world of education, Dr. Hattie has done a lot of research, and he talks about effect sizes. And there's various ranges of effect size and how much growth you can get for a student in the course of a year, and effect sizes range. The effect size of this formula, when you have a collective belief that you can make a difference, and then you have the evidence that you are making a difference, is 1.57. And that's huge. That's unheard of, right? And what I want to illustrate are these people, and I wish I had names to every single one of them. We'd have a very huge slideshow presentation, right? But I need to uphold these professionals from our phenomenal group of paraprofessionals that know our students so well. Are they perfect? No. But they're striving for excellence, absolutely. To our speech and language pathologists that schedule miracles every day to get in to see kids during the course of education, and our consulting teachers that organize and help us with all of our IEP meetings and our compliance and staying true to what students needs, to our counselors and social workers, our nurses, our occupational therapists, our certified OT assistant, our psychologists, our interventionists. Those are our board certified behavioral analysts that help support students that have significant behavioral needs, and a lot of other students in addition to that. To our assistive technology expert, again, then to all of our individuals that we contract with to help this happen, to help this effect size be achievable, to understand the data that is being taken, to understand to then how to apply that to student needs in an individualized way. I have the opportunity, and although I miss some, and sometimes more than I'd like, at least twice a month, if not every week, in every building in the school district, our special education departments meet and have team meetings. And there's various housekeeping things that are discussed about when dates for various IEP meetings and evaluation meetings take place. But where the magic happens is when we start talking about students, and what are we going to do, and how do we support this student, and what is the intervention that we're going to use. Again, is it perfect? No, I don't know what that truly means. But is it student driven, and are we continually reflecting on our practices and our procedures and how we support and address students? Absolutely. I cherish the opportunities I get to be with our teams as they meet as a special education department and determine how to continue to move forward to create the understanding on making a difference, and then how is our data driving that. okay? And what is that evidence that we're doing? So that is a huge deal, and I just have to applaud our certified and classified staff on what they do on a daily basis to move forward. So I just felt a great need to do that. Every year, we take part in measures of effectiveness from the state level by self-assessment, by audits, where we have various indicators that we are asked to report on. Okay, and we meet some and we don't meet some, and those that we don't meet, we figure out how to continually do our very best to meet those. The targets that we've met for students with IEPs is we hit the graduation rate that has been set for us. We have hit the participation of students with disabilities participating in statewide assessments. We have hit that our students that, for whatever reason, go into that realm of suspension and expulsion, that it's not unbalanced, that it's not, there's no discriminatory practices going on in those situations, that our students with IEPs are inside the class. Those of our students with IEPs that are inside the general education class, less than 40% of the day, so we want that number to be small, and we've met that indicator because we want, to the very best of our ability and as appropriate as possible, all of our students in the general education setting. That's the least restrictive environment, right, is some of those terms that we use. We want our students that are 16 and above to be transition planning. What does after high school look like? What happens when that yellow limousine doesn't pull up in front of at the bus stop anymore? How do we continue to navigate jobs in college and accessing the community? One that I am very proud of is the parents reported that our schools facilitated parent involvement to help their kiddo, right? And that's a huge kudos to our teams that way, that our parents are being involved. Various levels, and I've got pages and pages of data that I'd be happy to go through with any one of you. This shows in some areas our YTOP proficiency growth areas were there. And you'll see on our things that we need to work on, YTOP proficiency. In some areas, whether it's reading and writing in different grade levels or math, weren't there. And so those are things that we have met and need to continue to meet. Also, that our students that for various reasons, and the IEP team directs this, that we do have some students that may need to access out-of-district placement, separate school settings. And those things are taken very seriously, and we can't have a disproportionate number of our students accessing separate schools. We want to educate our students here in Uintah County 1. And we met that target to not have those numbers that way that go above and beyond what the state would say is appropriate. And again, our disproportionality, that there's no disproportionate numbers going there based on race or anything along those lines, as well as meeting our child find obligations, which we have an obligation for all of our students, that if there's a concern, that we look into that concern and determine if there truly is a disability under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Any questions so far?
No.
Some of those things that we need to continue to work on. Every year in June, we are asked to call the previous year's seniors and check in on them. And I remember the first 2 years that I was in this position, those were my students. So I made all of those calls because nobody wants to get a telemarketer calling and saying, hey, I made those calls, and my staff made those calls, and it was really fun to reach out to them. Now our crew at the high school, because I'm a little bit further removed from our students, make those phone calls. And we ask, are you going to any post-secondary training? Do you have a job? And then that combination score. And right now, in years past, we've had great results, and this from 21-22, that was lacking a little bit. So again, it gives us an opportunity to reflect, and how are we continually doing our best to set kids up to go to not just college, but any post-secondary school training. And then to also, are you getting a job? Are you out of the house? Are you being a productive member of society? And that's what we've been striving for from day one.
And is that all kids or just kids with IEPs?
Focusing directly right now on students with IEPs that graduated that way. That our students that are with IEPs inside the regular class 80% or more of the day. Like I said, again, we work on a continuum of environments where students are educated. The general education classroom is the least restrictive environment. Homebound could be considered one of the most restrictive environments because they're not with their peers and they're not with their general education teacher. And then there are a plethora of different components within that continuum. And one of those things is how are we ensuring that all of our students, to the best of our ability and as appropriately as possible, is accessing the general ed classroom. Okay, and so those are things that we can continue to work on. The dropout rate of our students with disabilities with IEPs that are dropping out. One of the skewed parts of this number, well, let me start with this. It goes back to the post-secondary outcomes. How are we helping kids strive to build these skills that they can then have another reason or a continued reason to say, hey, I'm going to stick with school. I'm going to stick with this because you found your niche and you found those little things, whether it's sports or vocational or whatever the case might be, those extra things that help you stay in. So that is a forever thing that we're working with. One of the components of nationwide for when we look at dropout numbers is our students that fall into the category of 18 to 21 years old. Students with IEPs can stay until they're 22, basically, through their 22nd birthday, depends on where it falls. But they're considered a dropout. And that's on the federal level, that isn't just Wyoming. There was some legislature that was going through, and I don't know if that's been passed or not, to remedy that on a state level, to not count that as a dropout. But from year to year, there's anywhere from 0 to 2 or 3 kids that fall into that adult category that by law, and it's our great opportunity, we get to educate them beyond the typical time when you would graduate, but they are counted as a dropout. And so it's the, anyway, it is what it is, but we don't agree with that. And then again, YTOP proficiency is going back to what I shared with that collective belief that we can make a difference, and then that evidence multiplied by the evidence that we are making a difference, continually doing our very best to figure out those ways that we can help students close that gap, get the what I would call their tier 3 support as identified on the IEP, while also getting their tier 1 instruction so that they're continually growing in that grade level expectations and filling those holes, and but continuing to get what all students get. And again, we have eons to grow in that. It is as complicated, in my opinion, and I'm certainly not a surgeon, but as complicated as doing open heart surgery. I wish we could open the brain of me and others and just say, oh, let's do that. But it is a complicated, team-oriented process and procedure that way. Some accomplishments. We have done extensive work around literacy. The YBIL grant that we have been awarded a couple of years ago has been amazing for every student, and I'm grateful that all students, including our students with IEPs, are benefiting from the various interventions and the various programs and supports and trainings of all staff, paraprofessionals and certified staff. We'll be going into year 3 of our summer elementary social emotional learning class that helps our elementary kiddos get a boost on making friends and playing nicely and boosting them to get ready to get back into school. The mental health supports that we have, I was talking to our administrative team. I don't even know where to start listing them. And the supports that we get through Project Aware, through our mental health teletherapy, and then just the trainings that have come through that grant that we are in year 2 in, has been phenomenal, and I'm grateful that we can add that. And that's above and beyond special education, but it falls as one of my domains that I help
Mr.
support.
Williams, just to butt in here, I almost called you Krista Brobeck again, but
Close.
Trustee Weaver, you brought to our attention a program that is in our state.
The Cook
We have
County Parent
signed
Guidance.
up, we're getting moving forward, and it will be part of that social emotional work, so thank you.
And that's
Looks really
something
good.
that I was just emailing Eric back actually and mentioned that we need to get that medallion, which I think
Yep.
Jaren will have to do.
We're close.
And put it on our page so parents can click on that, because it's more of a parent's guidance than kid
Yeah.
guidance, but
And it really does, the ounce that I'm aware of it, I mean, the level of support that we can offer to parents and is great. Anything we can help parents with in our son, I mean, I'm a dad, I have no idea what all the answers are, so that the level of support that we can offer is just phenomenal. So I'm really excited for some of those things that we can offer. We've had wonderful data support and training meetings with some of our special education experts throughout our consultants that we're working on, as well as compliance training. Our team teaching supports, and I would say our supportive teaching supports, and there's differentiation there, and again, this isn't the time to go into that, but how do we support all of our teams that work in the general education and resource room settings, special education settings, to make sure everybody, to the best of their ability, is aware of what they're doing, how they have that collective and collective belief and understanding of what they're doing, and bottom line is help kids more effectively. And I've talked about our staff. I just appreciate the heck out of them for what they do every day. Looking forward to this upcoming school year, we're going to continue to work on that LRE, that least restrictive environment, and how to access the most appropriate area where a kiddo can have the most impact for their learning. We want to continue to understand the data. Again, that's a major part of that equation, is that knowing what we're doing is working. And if it's not, how do we change, right? Those are those PLC questions. Timely completion of evaluation, ongoing supported teaching through our Black Hills support. That's one of our consultants that we work with. Lori Ivy League company comes in and really helps our supported in Team Talk classrooms, understanding those dynamics, focusing on our behavior support, our assistive technology team. I don't know if you guys were aware, but our district does have an assistive technology team. They've done a lot of work. We were able to go to a national conference several weeks ago to understand really how assistive technology plays into helping all students, but specifically for this, our students with IEPs. Finally, to continue with the PLC collaboration, it's a trick, right? We have one certified teacher that covers multiple grade levels. And so how do you collaboratively work with that? It's tricky, but our teachers, our special education teachers and our general education teachers get very creative to do their best on that collaborative piece so that they can truly have a professional learning community. Continue to work with our district-wide elementary behavior support classroom. We've certainly had our growing pains with that, but the level of support that our teacher and the classified staff, our paraprofessionals, offer is amazing, and our students are making great gains that need that level of support. Understanding how to take the IEP goals, which is kind of the heart of the IEP, and making sure that we're aligning them to the best of our ability to close that gap to those grade level standards, right? And get our students to those points. And then ultimately continue to support our families through the IEP process, which is thick sometimes. Again, I love our department. I love this school district. We tackle very difficult things every single day, and the people behind those efforts, including our parents, are phenomenal, and we keep trucking away every day. So that's special education in a very, very condensed nutshell. Again, if there's any comments or questions, I'd be happy to address any of those.
Thanks, Matt.
With IEPs, do they have to have like a academic deficit, or can IEPs just be behavioral?
Right, so there has to be, first of all, an IDEA-driven disability area that qualifies for special education. And not every disability qualifies under IDEA. And then we have to determine if there's an educational impact, and what is that educational impact. And behavior can certainly be an educational impact. And so we can, if there's not an impact to education, like if the behavior, which typically does impact education, right? Then we'd be hard pressed to say, well, we need to write an IEP. But we can utilize counseling and various social emotional learning goals to do that. Typically speaking, there's always an educational component to that.
And then is there behavior support or behavior,
Goals?
classrooms are the right thing at every school in our, like all our elementaries, both
No.
middle schools and the high school?
No, so really we rely on like that continuum of services that I was talking about for behavior as well. And so we do have an elementary behavior support room that through the IEP that a team can access if that's the level of support they need. That the individual school has said, you know what, we have exhausted all of our least restrictive environments within our building. We need to look at a more restrictive environment, and that behavior classroom can be that next level.
And where's that at?
Right now that's over at Aspen Elementary.
So I notice in my work that we're seeing more and more and more behavior issues. Are we looking at, like, is that overwhelming Aspen staff? Are we looking at expanding that into some of the other schools and getting more behavior specialists or interventionists?
So right now, are we always looking to expand? I think it always has to be a conversation. Is it overwhelming a building? I would say no. Can it be overwhelming when we have a student in a classroom that has a lot of needs? Absolutely, 100% overwhelming. Right now at Aspen, at our behavior support classroom, we have a full-time certified teacher, and we have 3 full-time paraprofessionals. We also, within the school district, have a full-time psychologist that helps, 2 psychologists that help in the elementary domain. And then we have 2 board-certified behavioral analysts that help with that also. We've set guidelines for how many students can access that at any given time, and throughout the course of this first year, we haven't reached that level. Is there more support needed? Some days it sure feels like it, and then I think we need to make those decisions year by year in the situation as they come. One thing I'm also excited about is our paraprofessionals in that situation. We've been able to help them get training to be registered behavior technicians as well. And that's one of the other blessings, to have that BCBA individuals to help supervise and keep them up to date with that training. So I don't know if I answered your question, or I don't want to be a politician and dance around stuff.
No, I was just curious.
It's a good question.
You just are seeing more and more and more. It just seems like it's starting to get overwhelming. I'm wondering in the future if we're going to have to look at more.
We might, and I think we'd be foolish not to always talk about what the needs are within our buildings and do our very, very best to support those needs, whether it's through people. And I will say, hiring a person doesn't necessarily solve anything. What is the infrastructure, what is the support, what is the level of training is really good. It plays into that equation as well, but it's a valid question.
Anything else?
No. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. We will move on to discussion items. Mr. Thomas.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, as per statute, you have before you all the certified staff contracts. We present them a month ahead of time. By statute, these have to be approved by April 15th, which will be, we'll have a board meeting after that. So how we structure these is you'll see that those are continuing contract teachers. Initial contract teachers are those that have 1 year of service, and then non-continuing is between that 1 year and tenure, which is on their 4th contract. So you can go through there and see that this is, I guess, our entire teacher staff. Again, by statute, they're required to have 1 evaluation per year, and that is in process also. So in April, these will come before you for approval of teaching staff. The interesting part about this, they have until May 15th. The initial and non-continuing contract teachers have by May 15th to sign their contract and return. Tenured teachers do not need to return their contracts. They're automatically moved forward. If they haven't communicated with us, they're not returning on May 15th. There is no action taken.
No action. But is there any discussion from the board at all? Any questions?
No.
No. Okay.
Moving on?
Moving on.
Okay. Chairman Peterson, members of the board, legislative update and budget report's going to be really simple. We're still trying to weigh where they are. There's still some legislation out there that has not been signed by the governor, so we're just kind of holding off. I think the good news is they did approve full ECA for this year only, which is frustrating. That will benefit us greatly when it gets to the budget report. John has already begun the Employment Department of Ed 100, looking at filling that in, getting a estimate on where we are. We're right on our timeline with our budget preparation. We've already been to 1 job fair, we'll be to another this week. You guys will approve the resignations for the lifetime service stipends and early notifications, which at least gives us a direction of how many teachers we need to replace. Unfortunately, we'll have more that resign. I wish we could keep them all, but people move around. So right now, the numbers are down a little bit, but I'll get into that when we get to approval of those. So that's really my report. Again, this is probably an editorial, but our Representative Berger and Senator Schuler, they served us well. When you get a chance to see them, please thank them. They were in the crossfire on some really tough legislation, and they held true, and they supported, I think, our beliefs and our positions, and I sure appreciate them.
Yep.
And so, again, job well done for them. I wish we had more of them, have a little more influence, but we don't.
So maybe this is a question to you or to John. The ECA, does that go towards our base, or is that just a cost of living adjustment that goes to the...
It's up to us.
It's up to us where we want to put that.
That's what we take, is we'll find a bottom line figure. The 100 determines our entitlement, and then we'll just study our expenses, and we'll end up coming up with a figure of new money, and that will determine where that new money goes.
Okay.
Good rule of thumb, 85% of our budget is staff, 15% is operations. It may be necessary to offset those because we haven't really provided any kind of operational funding for years, because that's where we've saved so we could give more to our staff. I guess I'm optimistic. The combination of new money and the ARP ESSER funds that we have remaining, I think we'll be able to do right with our staff. I'm hoping. Still a little preliminary, for sure.
Okay.
Chairman Peterson, I know it's not on the agenda, but I was asked, we did get some feedback on our public comments about the domes. I printed them off. I'm going to give you a copy. We had 4 responders, so I'm going to give you a copy of that. when we get to the dome part, I will kind of summarize what these 4 comments were. They're all positive. And so I'll apologize ahead of time. You're going to get 2 different packets. It's copied on the back of a couple of them that were long. So I wanted to make sure you got all the comments. So the first one is just the comments as given on our email page. The second page is those that went over more than 1 page. So you have them all. And I guess public comments next, so maybe if you're okay, Chairman Peterson, can I just explain what their comments were?
Yeah, that would be fine. We're going to open up to public comments, and if you want to be part of the public, you're more than welcome. All right, I guess at this time we'll open it up to public comments, and if you want to address us first. Thank you very much.
Peterson, members of the board, you had 4 responders on our public comment section. All 4 basically have a similar position. They're supportive of the domes, but they request that they be placed at our elementary schools. The reason for that is, again, they each have their own reasons, but the bottom line is winter is tough in terms of outdoor exercise. If the temperature is 10 degrees or below, our kids don't go outside, so they have indoor recess. So their requests are that you put the bubbles at the elementary schools. They state that that's where the highest population of kids are. That's their comments.
Okay.
And like I said, all 4 of them are positive for the bubbles, just requesting a different location. We're not at that point where we finalize the location. We'll get to that a little later in terms of funding, but that's still out there. So I appreciate their willingness to comment.
Yeah.
That's all I have for that.
Okay, thanks. So now it is, I guess, open mic. So if there's any comments that want to be shared with us, please come forward. Make sure you state your name and residency.
I'm Ethan Reichenberg, and I live on Aspen Grove Drive West 119. And I came forth today because I'm running a girls wrestling camp for my senior project. And I know I have to run it by the superintendent, but I also wanted to bring it up to you guys today to see what your guys' opinions were on it.
Is the mic on? I'm having a hard time hearing.
I couldn't hear him.
So for your senior project, you're wanting to do what?
Girls wrestling camp.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit about the camp. What are you planning?
I'm planning on a 2-day camp this month. It's on a Friday and a Saturday. It's to introduce to girls that we are now open to wrestle for them, and they're gonna have their own individual like tournaments and stuff, because they used to have to wrestle for a big team including boys, and now that next year they're only going to be wrestling girls. So I want young kids to get the chance to get more experience as we used to have experience.
So what ages?
All ages. So from all kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay. Now, are you charging anything for this camp, or is it free?
We were going to charge $5 for 1 day or $10 for both days. And
Where do the proceeds go?
It's going to go towards our wrestling team for next year.
To the boys and the girls, both?
Yes.
So what have you learned in the senior project?
So far, I think it's a pretty good idea, and it's kind of stressful.
You think?
Yeah.
Do you have coaches that are going to help you? Some of the wrestling coaches that plan on like attending and helping with it?
Yeah, I do.
So I guess that comes down to adult supervision within there. So you would just do it at the high school?
Yes.
Wrestling room then? Is at the high school, not at Davis or EMS then?
No, we would run it up at the high school.
Okay.
And we don't have any dates yet, but I'm working with Larry Wagstaff, the head coach, on dates.
So do we have some female wrestlers that are willing to come help with the camp as well?
Yes.
that You had this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Have they beat you up yet?
No, they have not.
I just did it.
So this would be kind of an introduction for girls that had never been involved in
Yes, it would.
So they did have state this year. So the girls had their own state, which was good with the Activities Association. And
Chairman Peters,
Go ahead.
if I may, just to, I think you guys should realize that this board took that position years ago. Signed a resolution, sent it to the state, that there should be a culminating event for girls.
Yeah, Mr. Wagstaff came and presented.
Yeah, so way to go. Again, we kind of led the state, got other superintendents to agree, and it was a very well-attended event, and a great event. So again, I think this is wonderful that we introduced something that hasn't been introduced to girls for a while, so I hope it goes well.
it's actually growing pretty big nationally, you know, so it's pretty good, so.
I think when you guys were little, because you're about my boys' age, they even did like pre-K. They was like 3 and up could come and do the wrestling camp. That's how my boys got into wrestling, was when they were little, teeny.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
And so I guess that's, how many you're anticipating on? Because honestly, the wrestling room at the high school is not very big. So that's why I was wondering if you needed more gym space, if you went to an EMS or a DMS, you know, that you might have fewer conflicts with some of the activities that are going on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I understand that track has to do indoor, like,
All the snow melts.
yeah, because all the snow.
And soccer.
And soccer. So I was might have thinking of doing it in the gym if we didn't have enough space in the wrestling room.
Okay, and then, so that's part of your senior project, is you're gonna have to do the coordination, so.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to find all that information out, coordinate it, and make sure that you have space, and now, don't be afraid to have to move it from one place to another if there's too many conflicts, so, but anyway.
Could you state your name again? I could not hear it. Be a little more loud, like you're proud.
Ethan Reichenberg.
Reichenberg?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ethan.
And then what about advertising? Have you thought about what you're going to do to advertise and get the word out to the schools? And
Yeah, I was gonna see if I had permission to, I have a flyer that I made. I'm gonna try to like see if I can send it off to the schools.
Come see me.
To see.
We know a man you can go visit.
It's all about the project.
It is, so.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Good idea. Great idea. Thank you very much.
When you present to your committee, will you make sure you email me and let me know so I can come?
Yeah, well.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Any other comments at this time at all?
May I speak?
Yeah, come on up. There's a few of us know who you are.
Handful.
A handful up here that might be related to you, but could you please state your name and
Thank you.
your address?
My name's Bradley Mills. I live at 109 Fox Point Court, and I thank the board for hearing me out. My cousin Rich board, he's married to a cousin and my 2 cousins. So, but anyway, thank you. I'll make it brief. I'm here today to communicate an observation. I watched C-SPAN, and it was a Senate committee on fentanyl and opioids. And they had a panel of experts and 2 mothers that had buried their children. One mother had 2 children die. And there was various questions and statistics and a lot of truth. And the board, towards the end, asked, the mother specifically, what is it we can do? How do we begin? They said, go to your school boards. And she wished vehemently that her sons had had alarms, warnings, like at school, petitions, assemblies, one pill will kill, fentanyl. In 2018, there was 108,000 deaths of opioids, 77% fentanyl, mostly young. Vietnam War was about a 15-year period, approximately 55,000 dead. That's pretty alarming. 2023, I think we're really close to 280,000 deaths. The border's wide open. Our government killed these children in Vietnam. It took them 15 years. Our government's killing them now. See this beautiful young man? This is who I'm here to hopefully represent. But it's just a travesty of what we're having to undergo. And it's evil that we're up against. But this board could hopefully maybe get something going like t-shirts, assemblies, website, school website, a warning, talk about it. We're about to have spring break, and then we're going to have summer break. Where do these kids get the dope? Online. They bring it to their bloody house. It's poison. One pill kills. Pharmaceuticals do not make pills that kill you with one pill if you misuse. They don't make it so it can be misused. The Chinese are slaughtering us between COVID, fentanyl, opioids, open border. 160 countries are carte blanche across our border. 160 countries. Our law enforcement is hobbled, crippled. Our administration we have is pro-offender, pro-criminal. They're doing nothing. It's terrible. It's really bad. A school slogan, one pill will kill. Public forums, information among the students, among the teachers, discussions in the classroom and assembly. Maybe research more, get some scary statistics, have an assembly before spring break. Everybody, this is what we don't do. This is what's going on. Danger. Don't take a pill. Kids do dumb things. Children do dumb things. Puppies do dumb things, okay? These kids get online and have it delivered to their house and die. And at the end, they asked the woman that had the two babies die. Well, they weren't babies, they were teenagers. If you could talk to Joe Biden right now, what would you tell him? She said, I hope you burn in hell. So I'm here today to hopefully start something among, I've told my grandsons, you know, talk about it with your friends. Go online, read about it. But these kids need to be warned. They need to be protected. We're on our own. There's nobody going to fix it for us. We got to fix it. And it's evil. It's every home, every person. These kids weren't, you know, broken family that died. They weren't high risk for what? Sex trafficking, drug use, you know, vulnerable because of a broken home. No, they were stable. They were religious, athletic. They didn't get in trouble. So these women said start with your school board. And so I'm here today. Maybe plant a seed, but in, you know, the recent developments on the border where they murdered those people going down for cosmetic surgery, citizens. What's going to be done about that? Nothing. I can tell you that right now. We're on our own. So hopefully we can begin to educate and protect and be aware and take care of our babies. You know, 108,000 in 2018. That's not all kids. 77% fentanyl, mostly young. If that big board had a map of the U.S. and you could put 108,000 BBs in a shotgun shell, stand back there and shoot it, you'd be amazed at how many that is. It would wipe the country out as a piece of paper. They're being protected. It's being allowed. It's being encouraged. And people we rely on, that I do, is the right-wing GOP. They're useless. They love money. The devil's working on them. We're on our own. How old are you, young man?
17 years of age.
Okay. You're about right for the government to go kill you. But right now they're doing it secretly, allowing it. And it's terrible, and I hope that we get some help. But we're going to have to get it from within, among us. No one's going to fix it.
No, that's a great topic that we need to bring up, so I really appreciate it.
It scared the hell out of me.
Oh, it scares me too, and it should.
You know, what's our most dreaded thing?
Yeah, so.
Putting our babies in a box, right?
Right.
No shit.
Right.
And it's off the scale, and they're not telling us. What you do here, bits and pieces. And could that be lies? They're buffered truths, same as a lie. So hopefully, you know, I would like to come back and maybe assist or listen to progress and maybe save our babies.
No, it is, I appreciate that. The entire board and everybody in this room appreciates your concern, because it's everybody's concern, and we need to be action, you know. And sometimes, we talked a little bit about this before with Mr. O'Neill. There was a song that used to say, "Teach me all that I must know." And they changed the words to "teach me all that we must do." And so we need to be more of an action type community. So I think we need to look at that and see what we must do to prevent some of these things from happening. So we know, but we'll take action. So appreciate your comments.
I think we'll be shown.
Yeah.
Are there anti-drug messages going around the school?
Yes.
As is.
We used to have DARE. How's that doing now?
Well,
Is that still
we
in
talked
there?
about DARE at the last school board meeting, because we had some officers from the sheriff's department who are interested in getting that going, but it does take funding, and they're trying to look at pairing up with the police department and bringing that back into our schools. They are doing it in Lyman and Mountain View right now. So we are talking about that, but it does come down to a little bit of funding, and so we're waiting on the sheriff's department and the PD to figure out if they can swing that or not.
Oh, one last comment.
Officer Stahl did it.
What's that?
I said it'd be nice if Officer Stahl was one of them, because his father was a DARE officer back in the day.
Well, and also the DARE officers have to go through special training at the academy. You can't just have any officer run the DARE program. They do have to go through specialized training in Douglas, but yeah, so they are talking about it, and they've spoken with several of us about it as well.
Brad, this might be something that you might be looking at.
So this is part of our March Project Aware program. So there are 6 specific informational pieces tied directly to opioids and fentanyl.
And it's sent out over social media.
Yeah, it goes out to all of our students through social media.
Wow.
It goes out to our community.
We actually contract with a company that helps us target all of the social media to make it, to elevate these messages, whether it's opioid use or fentanyl or vaping or underage drinking or whatever the case is, suicide awareness, how to ask for help. This company helps us target social media to elevate it up so it appears more often. And that's through this Project Aware Green.
Thank you.
And we can track how many hits, how many people have looked at it, all of that, to get an idea of how many are seeing it and the impact it's making.
Nice.
There's
Thank you for informing me.
There's also flyers within the schools, especially middle school and high school, that are going up in strategic areas to create that level of awareness that this is garbage, what to look out for and how to not be fooled.
And you can see the message is just as strong as you had stated, very similar message. Just
Right.
quick.
There's a couple statistics that come along with this that was really alarming and graphic. We need something graphic to present to whomever, but particularly our youth, because it needs an impact, something they don't forget easily. And we execute with the cocktail of drugs in the penitentiary system. And they're slow. And sometimes they don't work real fast. And they kind of, oops. And there's a shortage. These fentanyl pills, one pill will kill you. And Narcan is your rescue unit for opioid overdose. It can't be used because you're dead time you get it out of the bloody box. It kills way better than what we put the smart boys to figure how to kill our convicts. And they get it online to their house.
So I guess one question, we have Narcan in our school systems?
I think we're working on it right now. Yeah, we're working on it with our nurses.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a
Resource officers.
change in policy,
Yeah.
but one that our nurses are working through. Once we have the opportunity to have that and they're
We'll have
trained, we
to
will
do policy,
definitely-
add that into our school, permissive, allow it in our school system.
Every school, every
Nice.
nurse, yeah.
I'm reading these messages as they come up on the screen, and they're pretty to the point. I mean, they're getting the message across.
We also have a series that deal with vaping. Vaping is critical at this point, and those are the posters that I've seen recently up in the school. This Project Aware has really allowed us to kind of, I don't know if we'll ever get ahead of it, but at least try to be equal with it. I think one of the next things that we need to do is educate parents, because I don't think parents are aware of vaping, the possibilities of what they're vaping and not knowing what they're vaping. Even as addicting the nicotine is, that's not been our issue. You guys know we've had an issue with the THC in the vapes, and kids that have lost their privilege to be at school because of that. So it is something that we've taken seriously. We can always do more, and we keep at it. Social emotional learning is going to be a key to all this, and we start young.
Well, and these dirty Chinese, they're putting it in vape, they're putting it in marijuana, they're putting it in any drug they can get their mitts on. And if you ingest it, you're just as dead.
And I for one, didn't know that we had this kind of a program happening and the scale of it, and the effectiveness of it. So if for nothing else, Brad, I appreciate you bringing this up because it educated me on what's already been done.
And they can hit vaping. And it's a trick. It's a sneaky, in the dead of the night, like a thief.
Unfortunately.
It's a poisoning, deliberately. It's murder. Huh?
Unfortunately, vaping is not stinky. There is no odor.
Well, but anyhow, thanks for listening.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Appreciate you.
Besides what our secondary schools and elementary schools are doing, we also have, our Chromebooks have, basically a splash page, and we talk about all of these things, from suicide to vaping to opioid addictions, and that gets changed out. I know our students love it, right?
Yeah.
You see that splash page all the time.
Oh.
They can't get around it.
So, perfect.
So it's another way of just being able to, in a small way, inundate the students of, hey, this is coming up. And we've got some that are K-3 appropriate, and then some that are maybe, 4 to 12
Great.
appropriate as well. So there's a lot of things going on, probably notes to our board there.
So going down the vaping end of it, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they have vape sensors available now that are out
They
there.
have them in Green River.
That we can put them into bathrooms. Okay, anyway, and the camera's outside, so anyway, all right, perfect. I shouldn't have said anything because it's kind of secret, but hopefully none of the young kids are watching. So.
Moving on. Mr. Mills, thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more thing. I also learned they have a kit. You can go get you a pill online, then take it home, scrape a little, test it, see if it's going to kill you.
Oh, really?
If it's really Percocet, then you can have it. So
Let's not do
that's
that
what I
either,
learned also.
Okay, yeah, so,
It's unreal.
yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you too.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, my name is Nancy Bunot. I live at 339 Clarkson Avenue. I'm here to lighten up the meeting a little bit. We're going to talk about domes and indoor recess. So much lighter than the fentanyl crisis. I was my husband and I were one of those that submitted a letter. Just something for you to consider. I don't know the ins and outs of the numbers of enrollment and the numbers of students that we have, but in the brief, what would you say, research that I did, I feel like by looking at placement of these at elementary schools and allowing high school and middle schoolers to go to those domes before school, after school, on weekends for their extracurricular, I feel like we could benefit over half of the student population just in moving them to that location. So something to consider. It's not a deal breaker either way. It's good for the community, good for the school district to have those, no matter where they're placed, but something to consider where we could perhaps benefit the most students for the money and the time and everything that's being spent. How can we get the biggest bang for our buck for these kids? So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're done. Any other comments? You can have the floor. If not, we will move on.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, moving on.
Chairman Peterson, member of the board, we have several different personnel items. Number one is we recommend that you approve the resignations of 3 certified teachers that are on your list.
Okay.
Part of this, just so you guys are aware, we offer what's called a early notification incentive. If you notify us before the 1st of March that you're not returning, it allows us to identify a replacement early. So these 3 individuals, that's what they've done. Fantastic teachers, they'll teach to the end, but they've notified us that they don't plan to return. We recommend that you approve these as.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Any discussions?
No.
All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
The second item is to approve a leave of absence. We allow our certified teachers to take a leave of absence up to a year for various reasons. This teacher is a continuing contract teacher, which means when she comes back, if you approve this, she will have a position. She's an elementary teacher. We always need elementary teachers, so that's not an issue. We recommend that you approve this leave of absence for a calendar year, for a year, contract year.
Okay, it didn't show up on our action items here, but anyway, okay. We have the approval for lifetime and resignations, but that was one of the.
It's under the list. It's under the list there, David.
At the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
What happens is.
Okay.
The list that we print off don't show all the items, but on board docs you should have them.
I did, so that's why that was on the board docs, okay. So I need a motion to approve the leave of absence for 1 year, right, correct?
Yes.
That's what it's for.
So moved.
I have
Second.
a motion and a second.
You got it?
On the right side over there. Any discussion? No discussions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Item 3 is that you approve the contract. Really, these are contract modifications and to offer a contract. This is for Summer Moore as interim principal at North and Vicki Ehlers as interim teacher at North. Recommend that you approve these.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve Summer Moore's contract to finish out the school year. Do we have any comments?
And Vicki Ehlers.
And Vicki Ehlers, sorry. Do I have any discussions?
No, just thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, number 4 item is those that have taken the lifetime of service stipend. Again, just quick background, this is one of the good things that I think we do for individuals who have truly put a lifetime into this district. It's not a lot of money. What we pay them is $100 per year of service, and then we double the payoff for sick leave. Where this money comes from is the board allocates $75,000 every year from the employee benefit fund. We try to let that continue. If you remember when this was presented, we thought it'd carry for 15 years. We still have $1 million, just under $1 million in the EBF. This will continue, hopefully, for a long time. To qualify for this, you need 20 years of service, and again, you get double your sick leave payout. So part of the money comes from the employee benefit fund, part comes from general fund because we're paying off sick leave anyway. There is a savings to the district for 1 year as we replace these individuals with first-year teachers. It's not huge, but again, it's still something that we count on and plan on. We also, these individuals, when you take it, they're retiring, and we will have a retirement dinner sometime in May. Invite you guys to come to thank these individuals personally. The plan when this was set up is to fund 5 certified teachers and 5 support staff. They're paid exactly the same based on their years of service and their sick leave. We have 6 certified and 6 support. So I think this is the second year in a row we've equaled out. This represents a great deal of experience in our district. And hard decision for some, but anyway, it's a good thing that the board does. So we recommend that you approve the lifetime service stipend for these 12 individuals. As per the policy, they have until Friday. If they choose not to take it, they can rescind it and we'll keep it.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the lifetime service stipends.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the lifetime service stipend as presented by Mr. Thomas.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. So,
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, we are on now action item B, which is we're requesting permission to obtain financing for our domes. What I recommend, since we're just kind of in this process, is that we, I guess, get bids on financing between $1.5 million and $1.75 million. That will allow the board and us some flexibility if we choose to put a restroom or if we're going to do FF&E. We'll get a rate. This does not, all this does is allow us to go out to bid for those numbers. The board will approve those probably next month if we receive them. We'd love to go local, but again, it's a competitive process. So we'll bring that back to you. So we're requesting permission to obtain financing for the dome.
any comments, John? You were leaning forward like you had something to say, and I realized you were scratching your leg. Didn't mean to have everybody focus on you, but anyway. So, I need a motion to approve permission to obtain financing for the domes.
So moved.
I have a first.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussions? I guess I do have a little bit on this thing right here. So, moving forward with this and the location that we're looking at the high school, Mr. Dennis, there was a couple of things that I would like to take into consideration and maybe look at as we go forward. Obviously, this is just the first step going after the monies. But it has been brought to my attention as something that I thought a little bit about times, the snow deposits that we have coming off the top of that ridge, where we're going to try to put those. And I would like for you to maybe look into a little bit on some capturing snow fences or see where we're at. This is a bad year, and then the placement of that far enough away from that hill that we don't have those issues. The second thing that we need to look at possibly is, if we do have a big snow event or a snow year, is snow storage. So we have to have an idea of where we're going to move snow and be able to house that snow out away from them domes. The third thing we need to look at, and I walked into my garage today and it was a reminder, we need some storage. And sometimes I think we have storage buildings, but sometimes a few of us collect just way too much junk, right? And so I don't know, as going down the road and looking for another storage shed, that maybe we need to look at maybe reducing some of the items that we've collected for the last 40 years, so.
If I may?
Yes, sure. You may.
Chairman is about to enlighten you.
I'll try to enlighten. So, Chairman Peterson, members of the board, definitely bring up some very valid points. Been looking at. I'll start with your last one first because it's the easiest one to address. Based on the public comments, I immediately spent some time, talked to Brent and said, hey, we need a 30 by 30 shed. So we've already implemented and kind of designed that and put that in. If you look at our plans, you've got
Building 1, Building 2, the scoreboard sits here. Right here is where we're looking at a 30 by 30 that we feel would be adequate. We also realize that the airlocks, so each one of those have an airlock system, can also be utilized for storage, because the only time that that airlock system will be used would be actually moving things from the outside in. And so that gives us an additional, it's about a 12 by 8 section already built into the domes itself. So hopefully we won't accumulate too much. If we do, we'll go on DYI network and become one of those hoarders and see what we can do from there.
Officers and members of the board, just to identify, there is storage along the track. They just added another, was that a 30 by 30 shed too?
That was, yep.
30 by 30 shed. There's a set of original storage areas behind the welding and the wood shop, which are being used now. There are some extra things in there. And then on the top of the practice field, I think is there 4 or 6?
6
storage areas with garages that we could potentially utilize too. It would be nice if you could have a storage area close to those domes, even though we're going to improve the road to where those, I think it's football storage right now. I don't know, maybe soccer too. But, anyway, we do have some opportunities and options, so that's very good point.
And I guess that's my concern when we talk about snow storage, is we're putting a 30 by 30 shed. Is that going to be in an area that we would have a footprint to store snow as we do some removal? So that's out there, so just a thought, so.
We recognize, and this year's not the year to talk about snow, but we've got to prepare, like any engineer, you got to prepare for what those 50-year storms and 100-year storms, and this is one of those years that you should be preparing for. So our hopes is, with our current design, naturally, we've got walking space at least 5 feet, sometimes 10 feet, all the way around the domes. Between the two domes is 20 feet. And this is where we're going to have to use our Ventrax, which is basically a riding snowblower that can throw it well over 100 feet, and being able to, move that snow out of that area up onto the hillside and others. The one concern that you do bring up is what, as we get those prevailing winds, what's it going to do? We put in this year, in an attempt to help the track, actually an additional fence right behind the scoreboard with slats. Slatted our fence around the football field, which worked out for the most part. We are going to now have to remove the slats on the north side. But then we took the 12-foot fence that was up on top of the practice field and put some slats there, and that seemed to help tremendously with that. And we'll probably have to mimic, but we'll have to be careful because of where we're throwing our discus and shot put, some sort of snow fence up there that can be removable so that it's not interfering with some things there. And so I hear your concern. Maybe we could just dome the domes.
The whole thing, dome the domes.
And while we're doing it, let's just dome the whole community, and that would take care of our elementary.
I did call the circus, and they are bringing a tent for me next winter over my house.
Okay, good. So,
big top.
as you guys have some ideas with that too, it is difficult to think about where is going to be the least impactful place with snow and wind.
No, and that is, and so I deal with it, right? So there is a science to it. That's what I'm saying. So don't go up there just throwing a fence up there thinking that you're going to be able to capture the snow. So I would look at maybe some advice. Obviously, the height of your fence the distance away from where you're trying to capture it, what are we depositing on the back side of it, the prevailing winds, where it's coming from, make sure you have the right rotation of your fence to capture the most of the snow. So as you move forward with this, we're voting on just the funding part of it, but we don't want to have any issues in the future. So just as you go forward, please take into consideration a couple of those things. So
12-foot fence right along our property line between us and Paxton would be ideal.
You can do natural fence too. You can go along the outside, plant some trees, plant willows, stage it back and forth. So there's options.
Yep.
So anyway, so please take a look at that and make sure that our investment is well taken care of. So.
Well, and as far as the snow removal, what's wrong with the vacant lot that we own next to the practice field? Can't we put snow there?
You can, but it's a long haul.
Well, it is, but we own that land. We can't do anything else with it.
You can just put it up on the practice field. It's not going to hurt anything.
No,
so
they can do that too.
That's right.
So it's designing our space adequately enough to be able to get that type of equipment to be able to do that. And you know, just our road alone, from what we're going to have to change some of our habits. And, you know, we've never really opened up the road all the way up to our practice field and then down into that area. And so that's going to be some changes, and then being able to make sure that everything is spaced well enough that you can get that type of equipment without ruining the things that are there. And so
so just something to think about. So
we'll do boiler system all on
the whole thing. Yep.
So
just run some
great ideas. Any other suggestions as we move forward from our board members?
We might come up with something, but right now it's just proceed going forward. I just threw that out there, so all we're doing is trying to improve the funding, and go after the funding.
So if there's anything else that you guys think of, please email me so that we can, you know, consider, think about it, see what we can do with that. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, while we're here, do we need to address these comments? Because I feel like we're kind of talking right now.
No, because we can address them later. Right now, all we're doing is trying to pursue the location and stuff can be discussed later. All we're going after is financing right now, because the feds just came out and said they're going to bump it again, I heard. So we need to move forward as quick as we can, trying to get our best interest rates on the funds that we need to borrow.
So you need a motion?
We already have it.
We already just need to vote. I just did the discussion item, so all I need is all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, the last item we have, item C, is approved bus financing. A little different than normal because of the issue we have one bus, and one bus is still in construction. John can answer any questions if you have about bus financing and how all of it comes together. Bottom line is we have financing, we're going to pay for the buses, we've worked it out with the state, we're good, we just will have to put some in escrow until we get the next bus. And hopefully, we get it before changing the fiscal year. So, any idea when the bus is going to come? Do we have none? They're waiting for parts, I guess. So anyway, it's kind of where we are.
But we have one.
We got one. Yes.
We got one.
Yep.
Okay. So you need a motion?
Yes. So
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we, and I'm kind of prefacing reading what John put here, is that motion to grant him the authorization to sign on behalf of UNA County School District Number 1. CN would then send half of the amount, $168,276 of the $336,552 to reimburse the amount paid to Lewis Bus for bus number 1. Okay.
Second.
You going to repeat that?
No.
Okay. So I have a motion,
right here.
I have a second to approve the bus financing in short. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So that's the end of our action items. Anything for the board roundtable at all?
Nope, I'm good.
Nothing? No comments? Fantastic. So I need a motion to.
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it.
Negative.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman.